Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Here.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Flynn?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present. There will be a motion this evening to suspend the rules and move item 5C and 5D to 6th and 7th order for final vote. Item 5C authorizes the transfer of funds from contingency to the applicable salary line listed herein for increased compensation pursuant to the MOA between the DPW and the city. Item 5D is a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Scranton and Local Lodge 2305 of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, AFL-CIO. Anyone who would like to speak to these pieces of legislation may do so in fourth order during citizens' participation. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, agenda for the Scranton Firefighters Pension Board meeting held March 18th, 2026. 3B, agenda for the Scranton Police Pension Board meeting held March 18th, 2026. 3C, minutes of the City of Scranton's Board of Ethics meeting held January 21st, 2026, received March 17th, 2026. 3D, agenda for the City of Scranton's Board of Ethics meeting held March 18th, 2026, received March 17th, 2026. 3E, minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held February 18th, 2026. 3F, minutes of the Non-Uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held February 18th, 2026. 3G, agenda for the Non-Uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held March 18th, 2026. 3H, minutes of the Scranton Police Pension Commission meeting held February 18th, 2026. 3I, minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held February 18th, 2026.
Thank you. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
Yeah, I have a few. As I stated last week, this Sunday, March 29th, the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association is hosting their annual Easter egg hunt at Pretzel Park at the corner of North Washington and Electric Street. It starts at 1 p.m. and it's a free entry. I have a few basketball-related announcements. I just want to congratulate the University of Scranton women's basketball team on a fabulous season, went to the national championship, had a phenomenal game beating NYU women's basketball team, breaking their 91-game win streak. Fell short in that championship game to a great Denison team, but it was their only loss of the season, fabulous season, so congratulations to the University of Scranton women's basketball team. And I'd also be remiss to not mention Scranton native and in my estimation legend, Jerry McNamara, being named as the new basketball coach at Syracuse University, his alma mater. Brings me back to my times watching him as a young kid at Bishop Hannon and taking those bus trips to Syracuse to see him play. So congratulations to him as well. I know Scranton is behind you and rooting for you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple. So, yeah, great job, Lady Royals. I'm going to echo Mr. Flynn's comments here. Jerry Mack, I saw them play Notre Dame on the bus trips. As a fan, I'm a fan of his too, but it'll be great to go back 81 and relive some of that. Also, the Victor L. Fury Society or Club in West Side is having a special menu this Thursday, 11:30 to 1. They're having gnocchi or cheese raviolis, or you can get half and half with meatballs. $12 for members, $14 for non-members. That's a great deal. And also, our friends over at the St. Francis of Assisi Kitchen, their shelves are running low. So the Client Choice Food Pantry, they would appreciate some and be very grateful to any support or donations you can give. And the items that they're looking for are like jarred peanut butter, jelly, crackers, pasta sauce, mayonnaise, and bottled water. All right, and that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? I have an announcement that and we'll announce it next week as well, but DPW will be off April 6th for Easter Monday, and garbage will be a day late that week. So we'll announce it again next week, but garbage will be a day late the week of Easter Monday. Fourth order.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Our first speaker tonight is Joan Hodawanitz.
Joan Hodawan in Scranton. The legislation for $324,880 for the private contractors for the winter storm that we had in January. I read through the backup, and I see that the city is still blaming insufficient staffing due to significant DPW callouts. Now, I know that you've scheduled a caucus on April 7th with, I believe, the director of DPW, 2 weeks from tonight, which would be the third reading of this particular ordinance. And I'm glad that you haven't moved it up like you have with the DPW contract, because I want to hear the other side of the story from the DPW staff, why there were so many call-outs. There's always two sides to every story. And I hope that the personnel who come to the caucus stay for the entire meeting to hear any comments that are made during fourth order on April 7th, and not just walk out like, well, done and gone, you know. So I know that we need to pay for these services, and that's not the issue. I'm concerned about how DPW workers are being tarred and feathered before they've had their say. And I just my personal opinion. Thank God we have a DPW contract. It's only been 448 days, but, you know, who am I to complain? I saw in the, first of all we have is a memorandum listing the changes to the previous contract. Somebody needs to sit down and type out the whole contract so we have one document and then post it to the city's website. This is something that every time we have a labor contract renewed, you know, you have to beg. And they say, oh, you know, we have it. And all you have is the memorandum listing the changes. Those changes need to be put into a single document, and somebody needs to take ownership of that. That's all that is a typing drill. You let the lawyers look at it, make sure no one made any mistakes, but it doesn't help the residents or municipal employees to have 20 documents to sift through, need one document. I saw in the contract that DPW is no longer required to reside in the city, so that puts them on a par, I believe, with police and firefighters. I saw the figure for the 2025 one-time bonus to all the union employees of $225,000. What I did not see calculated was the pay raises in 2026. You see, you know, these people are getting a $1.50 pay raise, and the rest of them are getting a $2 pay raise. What is the total dollar figure for the 2026 budget? Somebody needs to calculate that and tell the public what that figure is. Where is it going to come out? Is it going to come out of professional services and business administrator administration? Or is it coming out of the contingency fund? I'd like to know, what is that figure and where's it going to come out? Because if you look at the 2025 city budget, you see those 90 union employees, flat wages. There was no increase in their wages, so we need to see what it's going to be for the year 2026. And I don't want to have to wait until they show us the 2027 budget. I want to know now. And just in case you've forgotten, police and fire, their contracts end at the end of this year. I'm hoping that they have a running head start when they start those negotiations, because the prior contracts, both of them took over 1 year. We need to get out of this pattern of doing things that late. And I'm sure that somebody is going to make a lot of money on those negotiations in terms of labor councils. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mike Mancini.
Thank you, Council President Schuster. Good evening, Council and residents of Scranton. Tonight, Part 3, my version of the state of Scranton, our unionized employees. Scranton is a city built on hard work, resilience, and pride. And at the heart of that foundation are our unionized city employees. From the men and women who maintain our streets to those who protect our neighborhoods, respond to emergencies, and ensure city services run smoothly, union labor is not just the workforce, it's the backbone of our community. Every day, our city employees show up with a commitment that goes far beyond paychecks. They're plow operators who work through the night in the harshest of winter storms so our streets are safe by morning. They're firefighters who run towards danger while others are running away. They're police officers who patrol our streets, often under difficult circumstances, to keep our families safe. They're sanitation workers who keep our neighborhoods clean and livable, regardless of the elements. They are the clerks, technicians, and public work crews who make sure our city government functions efficiently and reliably. What makes our unionized labor in Scranton so important is not just the work itself, but the standards it upholds. Scranton has always been a union town. Our history is rooted in the labor movement, from the railroads to the mines to the factories that once powered this region. That legacy still matters today. It reminds us that strong communities are built when workers have a voice, when jobs are stable, and when the dignity in every role. But as we look to the future, we must recognize that supporting our city employees' workforce is one of our most important assets. The challenges facing our city today are real: aging infrastructure, tight budgets, changing economic conditions, and increasing demand for public services. Meeting those challenges requires a workforce that is experienced, motivated, and equipped to adapt. The good direction for Scranton is one that invests in its people. That means maintaining fair contracts, fostering open communication between all city leadership and employees. It means working collaboratively, not adversarial, to find solutions that balance fiscal responsibility with the need to retain our skilled workers. It also means recognizing that efficiency and fairness are not opposing goals. When we invest in modern equipment, updated systems, and a workforce development, we empower our union employees to do their jobs more effectively. That leads to better services, cost savings over time, and a stronger city overall. Transparency and accountability must also guide us. Residents deserve to know how their city operates, and city employees deserve to be part of those conversations. When we build trust between our city, its employees, and the public, we create a foundation for long-term success. Most importantly, we must remember that behind every job title is a person, a neighbor, a parent, a friend who is committed to our city. Good morale is critical to success. Our unionized employees just don't work here, they live here. They care deeply about Scranton because it's their home. If we continue to support and invest in our workforce while embracing innovation and responsible governance, Scranton can move forward with confidence. We can also preserve the values that define us while building a future that is stronger, more efficient, and more united. The path ahead is not about choosing between history, tradition, and progress. It's about bringing them together. By honoring our union roots and committing ourselves to smart, forward-thinking relationships and leadership, we can ensure that Scranton remains a city that works for everybody. On this day, Council will finally approve a contract for DPW unionized employees. I believe it's time that we bring all union chiefs to caucus. Let's hear what they have to say. Do each of you agree? Thank you to all of our city employees. Next week, part 4 of my series, Scranton City Council. Good night, Council, and the residents of Scranton.
Thank you. Up next is Mr. Paul Lindsay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Paul Lindsay, and I am a resident taxpayer of the city of Scranton. I'm very familiar with government, how it works, having proudly served the federal, state, city, and county governments for nearly 30 years. I came to tonight's meeting out of necessity to discuss my concerns regarding the current situation in the city of Scranton that needs immediate attention, specifically our roads and all the areas that the utility contractors have torn up. There are roads, specifically in the south side, that remind me of a third world country. I understand that there are times that the utility contractors need to make emergency repairs, and those repairs occur when the asphalt plant is closed and proper patching cannot occur. I get that. Currently, there are roads in Southside that have been torn up by the utility contractors and temporarily patched for several months now, leaving these roads in deplorable condition. My question to council is who ultimately oversees the pavement cuts in the city of Scranton?
So the individuals that you saw here tonight in caucus,
But who ultimately oversees them?
the business administrator.
So to be the city of Scranton, the administration, correct?
Yes.
Okay. My next question is, how many pavement cut inspectors does the private company employ in the city?
We could find that out.
Okay, thank you. Because they already said they have 900 that they have to address. And that's a pretty large number.
Yeah, and that's 900. So that's only the first 3 months. So there was over 700, almost 825, and there's 179.
Yes.
There'll be more to come.
It appears to me there's a lot of work that needs to be done. My next question is there a system in place to ensure that the utility contractors are making these repairs to the roads in a timely fashion? And my understanding is there's an ordinance in place. But again, I think there's some issues with the ordinance and how much teeth the actual ordinance has. We heard a lot of what I would call, I sat in at this meeting here earlier, I heard a lot of excuses and nothing's getting done. You know, they're blaming, technology and everything, but there was things in the past that it got done. I've never seen the roads as bad as it has been right now. It's deplorable. If there is, I don't believe there has been any compliance by the utility contractors. As a taxpayer, I believe the city of Scranton needs to implement a system that holds these utility contractors to strict guidelines outlined by the work agreement. Moving forward, I believe that before any additional non-emergency digging occurs, these utility contractors need to address all the roads that need to be repaved, and all the emergency repairs that occurred should be patched properly. I mean, it appears to me like they're getting way far out ahead of themselves and allowing this to go into the wintertime, knowing that these pavement plants shut down. That should not occur. If they cannot complete it prior to the pavement plants closing, they should not be doing that, digging up the road. That's just not right. I estimated that it will take all the spring, summer, and fall to complete this task. The city needs to hold these utility contractors accountable. Remember, what you tolerate becomes a standard. If you accept mediocrity, that becomes the norm. The results thus far are a direct reflection of a system that is broken and in dire need of repair. I believe this administration has failed, and it bears part of the blame. With the show of hand, which council members believe we, the city of Scranton, need to do a better job of policing pave cuts and repairs by utility contractors?
I've been speaking about this since the day I got here.
So I believe it's every one of you, right? Yes. So let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's put the pressure on the administration, as they are ultimately responsible for ensuring that the utility contractors comply. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Les Spindler.
Evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident homeowner. I too want to congratulate the Lady Royals. They had a great season. Unfortunately, they picked the worst time to play the worst game of the year. I watched the game. They made a good comeback in the third quarter. They took the lead, but then they fell apart in the fourth quarter. But those kids could hold their heads up high. They should be proud of themselves. And I mentioned last week that Casey Cranston is the daughter of police officer Jill Foley. And Jill told me that Casey's going to be following in her footsteps. She's going to be a Scranton police officer. She passed her test already. All she has to do is get a physical and get her training. So she'll be a good addition to our police department. Literally, I want to congratulate Jerry McNamara, too, on getting the job at Syracuse. Been a Syracuse basketball fan ever since Jimmy Boeheim was the head coach. Been a Jimmy Boeheim fan ever since he played basketball for our Scranton Miners basketball team, which I don't know if any of you are old enough to know about. I remember growing up as a kid, went to every Miner game, and they were great. It was great basketball. And Jimmy was my favorite player. So good luck, Jerry. Hope you do as good as Jimmy Boeheim did as a coach there. Pave cuts. This company made $219,000 and only $5,000 in fines. It's inexcusable. Inexcusable. And they said about the technology, they could track stuff in. These roads are worse now. I've lived in this city my whole life. Roads have never been worse than they are now. I don't know what kind of technology they're using, but it certainly isn't working. And something's got to be done. I've complained about these roads for years. And whether it's new legislation with more teeth in it or whatever, something's got to be done. These companies got to be held accountable. It's unacceptable. Next thing, I'm glad to see the Greenridge Street project is moving along a little bit now. Looks like they're putting like drainage things in now. And from what I see, it should be done no later than May if they keep working. Because they're getting a lot of work done. I just hope they keep it up and don't decide to take another month off like they did in February. Next thing, I forgot to bring this up last week. I ran out of time, actually. Last Monday, I'm sitting on my couch watching TV. I see a DPW pickup truck pull in front of my house. So I went outside. I asked the gentleman if he was here to look at my curb that the city ruined. Well, not the city, the contractor. The city paid to clear the snow. And he said no. So anyway, I told him the story, what happened. And he said he'll tell Steve, the supervisor. 2 days later, Steve shows up at my door. And he's the one that brought the crew last year to fix the curb. So I showed him what they did. He said, we'll take care of you, don't worry about it. I said, well, you know what, you shouldn't be responsible to do it. That private contractor should be here fixing it, not you. I said, you guys did a great job last year. He said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. So I think Frank knows what I'm talking about, right, Frank? Steve? He's a good man. So he didn't give me a timeline, but I'm sure he'll come through with it. Let's see. Oh, okay, last question. I asked this question a few weeks ago. Does anybody know, or did anybody find out what happens to the abandoned vehicles that are towed away?
Did we get an answer on that one?
We did not ask that question. We're waiting on a response.
Okay.
I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just curious, because, well, the one on 2005 Far Street was towed away finally. I noticed the other day. So, yeah, I was just curious about that. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next up, Ron Ellman.
Good evening, Council. Last week, unknown to most of you, I stood before you right here and shared my knowledge of the land sales for data centers by a handful of elected Judas, I guess. But why? Why did these guys go against the will of the people? Maybe they got promised some financial enhancement or positions down the road, who knows? But they have greatly abused their position and power and trust to the people of this area. The way the scientific achievements are going, these large, massive buildings and equipment will soon just be needless the way they're making, according to the paper, improvements in the use of the water and electricity. Will be a bunch of abandoned buildings that aren't good for nothing. There's no doors, no driveways, or nothing to them, according to a real estate friend. And I am really disappointed in Mr. Goggin and Welby for their anti-ICE, pro-bleeding heart stance for Biden's army of illegal, sick, diseased, criminal filth over Americans. It's over Americans, people. I don't care how you put it. And in Saturday's paper, the Justice Department's suing Harvard again for their anti-Semitic policies, pages home, away from home. It seems to me anybody exposed to that trash year after year, that some of it rubbed off. Candidate Page really needs to spend more time and concentrate her promotion of Bidenization and Scrantonization of the state. Every city, town, hamlet, village, everything, whatever. We all need our nonprofits and tax-exempt bars and restaurants, and especially her walkability plan statewide. Real quick, I phoned the newspaper last week to put an ad in, and I don't know what they cost, but that wasn't the. I got a computer, said leave your name and number. That afternoon, nobody phoned me. I phoned again, I got the computer. The next day, I forgot. The next day, I think that was Thursday, I phoned again, I get a computer to leave a message when I wanted. And that day, nobody phoned me again. Here, I'm trying to give them money for an ad. I wanted to put an ad in to have a wheelchair. My little French bulldog's losing his use of his back legs. What kind of paper is, how do you run a business when you won't answer a phone call wanting to give you money? That's why I sit here time after time and refer to them as a bunch of hacks running down there, because they just don't seem to have any interest in. I didn't pay for it for a while, Not one person came after me. Finally, Rosie said, get the paper again after, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. As far as I'm concerned, Scranton's without a paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Amy Cusick.
Good evening, President and members of Scranton City Council. First, I'd like to congratulate our newly elected council members. Thank you for stepping into your roles of service. My name is Amy Cusick. I am a resident of the city of Scranton, and I am also the founder and president of a nonprofit, Christmas Miracles from Heaven. I'm here tonight not to advocate for a special issue or to request your action, but to simply just reintroduce to you who we are, share what we do in the community, and continue to have that respectful, open line of communication moving forward. Like many people in our community, I've seen moments when families, children, and even our first responders were in need of immediate support that wasn't always readily available to them. I remember growing up in any fires that would happen, the Salvation Army used to have their canteen and go around and help the firefighters. We don't have that anymore locally. Those moments stayed with me, and nearly 3 years ago, they led me to start Christmas Miracles from Heaven. Our mission is straightforward, but deeply important, to provide community support when it is needed, and to also to become a strong advocate for our first responders and our veterans. Christmas Miracles from Heaven serves Lackawanna County, and our focus is on stepping in during real-world moments, often quickly and behind the scenes when help is needed the most. In just under 2 years, I am proud of what we have been able to accomplish through volunteers, donations, and strong community support. One of our most meaningful projects was restoring the abandoned Washburn Street Cemetery, which I will remind you that I have found out within the past year we have a fallen police officer and a fallen firefighter also buried at Washburn Street Cemetery. What was once an overlooked and horrible-looking space is now a place of dignity and respect. That effort was about more than just one cleanup. It was about honoring the past, respecting the families, and restoring pride in our community. This past year for Christmas was the most I've ever seen that cemetery decorated for Christmas, and it just warmed my heart. Another major focus of our work has been supporting children and families. Since our founding, we have helped over 600 children in Lackawanna County during the Christmas season. That was just in last Christmas. We ensured that they experienced a holiday filled of warmth, generosity, and hope that might not have been there if it wasn't for us. I've had families hug me, cry on my shoulders. But now, supporting our first responders is also central to our mission, as well as our veterans. During local fires and flooding events, we have provided water and essential supplies directly to the first responders in the field. Sometimes short notice, but simply help was needed. In addition, following community cleanups in our service projects, we've made it a point to donate any leftover food or snacks, water, juice, iced tea, whatever it was, to our first responders, the police department, and the firefighters to ensure that nothing goes to waste and that those serving our city feel appreciated and supported. These may seem like small acts, but they reflect on just who we are: responsive, community-driven, and focused on taking care of the people who take care of us on a daily basis. While these accomplishments matters, what matters most to us is the human impact behind them. Our work is about showing up, sometimes quietly, sometimes urgently, but always with compassion, respect, and purpose. I recognize the responsibility that City Council carries. You are tasked with balancing budgets, responding to residents, and shaping the future of Scranton. Our intention is not to complicate your work in any way, shape, or form, but rather to be a community partner and a resource when it's appropriate. As we move into 2026 with the new council, my goal is simply to just introduce myself early, express respect for the work that you all do, and let you know that Christmas Miracles from Heaven is active, we are engaged, and we're committed to serving Scranton and all of Lackawanna County. Thank you for your time this evening and for your service to our city. I look forward to getting to know you all better and working together to continue supporting the people who call Scranton and Lackawanna County home. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cusick, for those looking to be involved with your organization, if anyone's interested, do you just mind explaining how they could get in touch?
Yep, if anybody would like to become involved in our organization, we are on Facebook under Christmas Miracles from Heaven. We update all of our events and our cleanups on there. They can also email us at christmasmiraclesfromheaven@gmail.com or our phone number 570-862-0979.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Rick Little.
Hello, Council. Rick Little. I've always been a project-oriented person. I've done all kinds of work, been foreman, contractors, general contractors, foreman of that, or landlord, just so many different things. And these are all like project-oriented things. You get the people together to do the job, and you got bad people, you get rid of them. But what has happened in Scranton, as I've said before, is there's too many demons, like satanic demons. And I really noticed it this week talking to United Healthcare, because each day I spent like 200, 300 minutes talking with their robots and listening to their stupid song and going from one thing to the other, because I was just trying to get food. And, and their robots and their people to say, oh, just call 211, or, or get to your local government, just call 311. So this goes way to the top. This is international. It's communism, it's globalism. It's been coming down the pike a long time. And, they're talking about pave cuts and everything, I mean, if everybody in this city would write a letter, there's a crack in the sidewalk or in the street, which potentially could kill somebody, then when you go to court, hey, it's documented, That's one way to do it. My idea, I think there needs to be an enforcer. I mean, you see all these things, we support SPD and all this stuff, but when I started to try to watch the courts, I mean, the sheriffs are, you can't watch the courts, it's just a rigmarole. So there has to be an enforcement mechanism, and I think for under like about $185,000, Scranton could buy a sort of RoboCop, Terminator robot or something like that, and give them bamboo sticks and watch these contractors when they're doing their stuff and beat them when they're not doing it right, because I go to City Market, I see that sidewalk there, and the snow's on top of it, and then, when the snow melts, there's a big pothole right in front of it. It's the same thing all over and over, doing the same thing over and over again. And we're in that spot in the world now where it's, people are watching, they think they know what's going on, but, and they're going, where did this guy get this information, There's ways to get information, but, not from ABC News or Fox News or anything or the Times Tribune for sure. There has to be pride in the work of the people of Scranton. And I hear about this, what is it, PennDOT or something, outside contractors. That's the way it is with everything, People don't take pride. I know this guy that can do the job good. Let him do it. No, we don't have time for that. We need a consulting thing, which costs $25,000 $100,000 or $250,000. I look at the budget. Everything in the budget is, $2.5 million for this street, and then it's a whole grant process. That's not the way good government works. I mean, they don't even teach pave cutting, I don't think, at any of the colleges. They should have a pave cutting course, starting at Scranton High School, and they should hire people from Scranton. That will make the tax base, they're talking about a golf course now. It was owned by DeNaples, it's getting too crazy. It'd be great if we had invest in an enforcement robot. Once you make that investment, you don't have to worry about wages. You just have the robot go. He watches the pave cutters. They do a crappy job. Maybe he gives it a day warning, but then he beats them with bamboo sticks or something, That'll make it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. I enjoyed the caucus tonight, but all of us have suffered from bad repairs, pave cuts, potholes. Multiple years, utilities have come in here and you've asked them questions. How do you repair it? And countless members of the utilities have sat before this seat and told you, when it's done, we come back and we repair it curb to curb. Now, rather than looking at the potholes, which are incredibly obvious and difficult not to watch when you're driving because there's so many of them and they're so damaging, I'd like you to take a glance at the pave cuts on the road, those square blocks that are all over the city, that none of them are curb to curb, that none of them are repaired as the representatives here say. On my block, I have one that was put in 3 years ago. It's a good paved patch, but it was never tarred around the edges of it. Eventually, the water's going to go in through the cuts, and there's going to be issues there. There was a second company that came in up the block who was doing the sewer and the fire hydrants just to check them out. They made 2 large pave cuts, one on the right-hand side, one on the left-hand side, and they made 2 squares on each side of the roadway, didn't connect them, didn't go across, but at least they properly compacted them and properly sealed them. That at least is an improvement over what I've seen. A lot of the places in the city, when you go around, you can tell where the utilities are because you're bouncing constantly on all of these pave cuts. You get the little dip that you used to get. If you ever went on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, you'd come up the roads in Pittston and you'd be bouncing over, and then when it said the Scranton Turnpike starts here, you'd be on a glass smooth highway. We don't have that here. Why don't we have restoration curb to curb when they repeatedly say in here it's curb to curb? I have a dip that's about that deep from where the water main broke up our block. They came in, they compacted it once, and they're going to come back and take care of it, and they've spray painted the road around it, but you still have a dip that's about that deep that they've never come back and put any fill in. I expect it to happen in April, and I'll talk to you about it as it happens, but there's a point when they don't come back around to take a look to see how much it's settled, and all of a sudden it becomes a gigantic dip in the roadway and sharp edges along the edge of it where the road is collapsed. Moving on. Of course we don't have combined data in the city. Anytime you go together and you put reports together, it becomes available through a right to know. One of the biggest defenses that this administration has used for people asking right-to-knows is we don't collect it and collate it in that manner, so we're not required to make it in the format that you desire, therefore you don't get the right-to-know information. So there's a direct intent of the city not to put information together to make it collectible and be able to analyze it, because to do so makes it available for right-to-knows, and they constantly deny people for that reason. 7A, the request for the purchase of police technology. Dr. Rothchild, cameras are on there again, and it specifically says in there public sharing of data, that they are looking for data of sharing. I've sent you the reports on it, and it's a shame that if no one's looked at it, that they haven't, because it's an issue that the collection of data among private companies to surveil your own citizens isn't being addressed. And last, we have the introduction of the 5D. Why does it need to be fast-tracked? There are questions that I had on it, such as it says 16 hours. What about the CDL laws that don't allow that? What about the city's insurance rate to that? Because if they drive 16 hours and they're negligent, is the city responsible? How's the insurance going to handle that? I understand with small trucks that's different, and we've all done double shifts. But when we're talking about CDL giant plows, there needs to be less than 16 hours, as it's mandated to be less. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council? All right.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Dr. Rothschild, do you have any motions or comments tonight?
Yes, I do. First, I just wanted to start off by addressing the pave cut discussions that we've had tonight. I do appreciate Pannoni coming in this evening, as well as the BA, for explaining what they're currently doing to address the pave cuts and to better track them. I am glad that since I've been on council that we have made changes to the pave cut legislation to try to make it better, but it's become obvious that there's further adjustments needed, and even more, so that we could really effectively get the utility companies to fix the cuts. I know it's been an issue since we've been on council, and I feel it as well. We drive around the city all the time, and it's hard to keep track of potholes on which street, or which ones are pave cuts, or which utility company might have done it. I would encourage people to continue to contact through 311 as well as council, and even during the caucus we were receiving emails from people with complaints of other areas in the city that the roads needed to be addressed. So by doing that, then hopefully we can get the proper person out to inspect it, or get our DPW if it's something that the city has to take care of. I also wanted to bring up, there were a few questions that I had asked about the demolition list last week, and there's some additional questions that I sent the administration to, and I just wanted to provide the responses that I had on that. The first one was, what was the status from the previously provided demolition list from 2025, which of the properties were demolished, and will the remaining properties be placed on the 2026 list? 21 properties have been demolished since January 1st of 2025. Any properties from the 2025 list that have not yet been demolished will carry over to the 2026 list, and then they did include a list of the 21 properties. I won't go through all those right now. And then I asked if there was a committee responsible for determining if property meets the standards for a demo, and what about to discuss condemned properties, because in the past I believe we have had such a committee through the city with city employees on it, and I was informed that the city uses a uses the third-party engineering firm, Barry Isis and Associates, to determine whether a property is appropriate for demolition. They also assess the overall level of safety concern and determine when an emergency demo is necessary. Properties are condemned by the housing inspectors under the supervision of either Andrew Sunday or Tom Oleski, the city's Economic Development Director, Code Enforcement Director, and Code Enforcement Manager work with Barry Isit to determine the severity of the condemned properties and choose the order in which properties should be demolished. Demolitions occur in rounds 1, 2, and 3 throughout the year. Then I asked what was the status of condemned properties throughout the city. Properties are added to and removed from the condemnation list on a regular basis. As of today, there are 225 condemned properties in the city. After condemnation, a property owner does have the right to file an appeal with the Housing Appeals Board, and several properties are heard by the board each month. A property must be condemned for at least 1 full year with no improvements before it is considered for demolition. And then I asked how the properties are being prioritized for demo. They're in the process of determining which properties will be part of Phase 1 for 2026 demolitions, and they anticipate having the list of Phase 1 properties by May 1st. And I also asked how much money was budgeted towards demos for this year, 2026, and received that. There's $175,000 budgeted for city-funded demolitions. Additionally, they have the same in match, basically $174,986 in the 2026 CDBG demolition funding through Housing and Urban Development. So those were all the responses I received on there. I felt that that would be helpful for the public to know, especially going into the spring season, and then as demolitions begin, or if they're wondering about condemned properties and their statuses. And then I did want to request, Mr. Voldenberg, if you could contact SPD. I brought this up several weeks ago. I've brought it up in the past too, but a citizen had complained about it. So on Harrison Avenue, the vehicles that are being parked on the sidewalk and really blocking the sidewalk and forcing people to walk in the street unsafely along that route. As a result, I'd asked if they could go there and ticket the vehicles if appropriate. I was wondering what the status was on that, if there were tickets issued, if so, how many, if they've returned for additional inspection and enforcement.
I'll get a report, Dr. Rothchild.
Thank you, I appreciate it. That's all that I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sean McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, I have a few. Another update on the fidelity inspection report. I probably sound like a broken record with it. But a few days after the meeting, I was contacted by Attorney Gilbride, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Gilbride, you spoke with the legal team for the city, and they said the confidential marking on that document was an oversight. So, and now we could show it to anybody we want. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So, Mr. Voldenberg, can we have that put on the website so the residents can see some of the fixes that need to be with the building for the next year? It's a nice breakdown, I'm telling you, like a summary of what needs to be done immediately, the next 2 to 3 years, and then 5 years and beyond. Whether there's roof repairs, 88 bathroom compliance. It's a nice summary of it. Wish we had more of the actual inspection, but at least we have something, and we're able to put that on the website for everybody to see.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you. Next, I did ask some questions last week that we received some answers. First was the 320 Mulberry Street digital billboard. I asked for a copy of the original permits taken for the initial billboard installation. The response we got back, the signed permit application, engineering plans, and issued permits from 2008 are attached as supplemental documents. The near matter was resolved by the insurance of the permit. The city did not make any monetary payments to the plaintiff, which is great to hear, but we still want to know why there was a settlement. Last week, 2 weeks ago, Attorney Gilbride asked. We didn't get an answer. I asked Attorney Gilbride again to ask what was involved with the settlement, why did we settle, And also, the Times reported that it was due to the administration not bringing down the Harb ruling within 45 days to the prior council for voting on it. Mr. Gilbride, did you get any other answer on that, or?
The other answer I received, and if you had the opportunity to review the original permits that were issued in 2008, those permits granted an illuminated billboard, and that was the reason that the permit was granted, because that by virtue of those permits being issued, they were allowed that type of billboard.
Okay, so it had nothing to do with the 45 days?
That's what I'm told, and if you look at the permit, you'll see it does say an illuminated billboard, so.
Okay, interesting. Next, regarding the same issue, I did get the copy of the permits. Now, my question is, and Mr. Voldenberg, if we can set up some time, maybe next week, or maybe the end of this week with Mr. Oleski in the permit department, or the LIPS department, the documents I received from 2008 were permits that didn't match the documents somebody gave me that they did a right-to-know request regarding the same issue. So I kind of want to sit down with him to see which document is correct. Is it the permits that I received, or is it the permit, the person who brought this issue to me up who got a right to know? I don't know why there's a difference, but hopefully he could, give us some info on it. Hopefully it's not an oversight, but it's something I can go back and relay to everybody.
I'll schedule a meeting.
Awesome, thank you. Next, homeless camps. We did ask the city, are they going to continue removing the camps around the schools, Heritage and the Heritage Trail? Or is this just like a one-time spring cleanup? The response we got from the city was the police department continuously investigates trespassing incidents in and around the Lackawanna River corridor, which includes the Heritage Trail and Scranton High. Now, again, my question is, I guess the answer is that will be happening all year, but talking to some DPW members, they did do cleanups around the iron furnaces and around the U. So again, has there any other camps been cleaned up, or is it just strictly to the Heritage Trail and the schools, because it's not matching up what I'm being told by the workers?
I'll ask them, sir.
Thank you. And then finally, watching council the last few years and paying attention, I know background checks was an issue. Are we when we're hiring people, are background checks being done? Are we putting them on boards? So I just want to ask, I guess, for being a new council member, when somebody is getting hired or they're getting put on a board or an authority like the sewer authority or the housing authority, are they running background checks before they submit hire or they submit people down for us to vote?
I will, sir.
Okay, that's all I have. I hope everybody has a great week.
Thank you. Mr. Mark McAndrew, any motions or comments?
I got a couple. So actually, during caucus, I received an email about potholes. So, and this resident informed me that on Greenridge Street and Sanderson Ave, there's very, very large potholes. I don't know if to differentiate between paved cuts or potholes, so I'm assuming they're potholes. Could you please alert city's administration, let's get on these and take care of them?
I will, sir.
Also from this same resident, the intersections of Sanderson and Delaware and Dixon, drivers aren't utilizing the stop signs, or they're driving right through them. It's becoming a huge safety issue there, so could you please alert the Scranton Police Department about them intersections?
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
Also, a few weeks ago, I asked about, there was a light request right off Main Avenue in Roundwoods Court. I know I mentioned it before caucus, but I just want to put it out there and see where we're at with that, if we got any response, or if you could resend it.
I'll check on that also.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, just a few, thank you. So last week, I had asked about, after Mr. McAndrew had talked about the homeless encampments being taken down, was the police or the DPW giving out services to these individuals or telling them a place to go to get some services as their homes are being taken from them in that moment. And the response I received was that consistent direction to services is provided by Scranton Police Department and its nonprofit partners that routinely engage with the homeless population. So, Mr. Voldenberg, just to follow up on that, I would just like to know what services are the police department mapping these individuals to? Do they have a list that they say, or is it just go to CIC and figure out some services you may need there? Are they mapping them to specific services based on the individual? Is it individualized at all? It's great to hear that consistent direction to services is happening. I'd like to get a little deeper in the weeds on that and see what services exactly the police department is mapping these individuals to.
I'll reach out to them.
That's all I have on questions. And then, I just wanted to acknowledge the DPW contract. The city and the union have reached that agreement. Long overdue. I'm glad to see both sides come together to get this finalized. The men behind the scenes plays a major role in keeping our city functioning day in and day out. So I appreciate the efforts to bring these negotiations to a conclusion. I'm hopeful this agreement provides the stability and recognition our DPW workforce deserves, and just happy to vote tonight on approving this contract, and excited for those workers for our DPW union who are finally getting that contract. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few comments tonight as well. I was happy to have Pannoni in here for our caucus tonight. I think it was informative. We heard a lot. I hope the citizens and individuals in the audience and at home got a lot of information. What I gathered from it is we do have some improvements that need to be made. Going back as far as 2020, when I met with the DPW director at the time, some of these were suggestions I had made at that time about strengthening our ordinance. At the time, I was told that we didn't need to strengthen our ordinance. From then to now, we've had several directors and interim directors and individuals come and go, but I do look forward to seeing the closeout for 2025. We have, from what we heard tonight, we have over 600 pave cuts that are going to be closed out in the next month or so. So I can't wait to see that work completed and to get that report when it's done. When it comes to Mr. Flynn and Mr. McAndrew just spoke about the homeless, if we could reach out to the administration and see, do we know if there's a number, if there's any kind of tracking that's been done, do we know of the number of homeless that are in our city? I've asked that question several times to a couple different agencies. Maybe Catholic Social Services has that number, but I'd just like to see with if our population is increasing or decreasing or remaining the same.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Honawanitz asked tonight, I think me and her think very similar on financial issues. That number that you were looking for 2026, we'll be getting that pretty soon, and it's going to definitely be prior to July. I also have some questions coming up on some of the legislation as well, in the same line of questioning that you had. I also am happy to hear that DPW had a contract. I'm glad that both sides came together to get that contract completed. It's long overdue, as was stated before, so glad to get that done tonight. And then the last thing I'm going to say is, I've asked for it a couple times this year, but I'm going to continue. I want to keep it on the administration's radar. If we could just ask for the Pell projection again. I know they said it's coming soon, but when it comes to our city finances and some of the changing numbers that we're going to see for 2026 to prepare for the budget for 2027, if they could just get that Pell projection over to us as soon as they get it.
I'll reach out for that information.
Thank you very much. The last thing I'm going to say, which I almost forgot, I did get an update on Meadowbrook. So I had asked about, again, the Meadowbrook project in Greenridge, the number of easements that have been secured, and if there's additional claims. So at this point in time, we got the update that 32 easement agreements have been secured, and there's 12 outstanding. And they've had no legal claims up to this point in time. So we're waiting on that additional 12 before that work could begin. So hope to see those easements secured soon.
5B for introduction, an ordinance, amending file to council number 102, 2025, an ordinance as amended entitled, appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2026 to and including December 31st, 2026, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2026 by transferring $324,880 from the Department of Administration, Business Administration Bureau of OPER TSF Workers' Compensation line item account number as noted to the Department of Public Works, Highways Bureau, Professional Services line item account number as noted, to fund unforeseen professional services related to the winter storm occurring on or about January 25th, 2026, that were not identified during the preparation of the 2026 operating budget.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, we have line item, it's account 100-44714-140-140. In that account, we have about $3 million in total. And can we just ask what other categories draw from that fund?
I will, sir.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of introduction signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5C for introduction, an ordinance amending file to council number 42, 2024, an ordinance as amended entitled Appropriating Funds for the Expenses of the City Government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2025 to and including December 31st, 2025, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2025, so as to transfer an amount not to exceed $225,000 from non-departmental contingency account number as noted to fund Department of Public Works union raises that were not identified in the 2025 operating budget.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, this line item for non-departmental contingency, there's $650,000 total in this account. If we could also ask what other categories draw from this fund. We used about $550,000 last year, and do we plan to come close to this number this year? And then what is the status of our OPED trust funds?
I'll take care of it, sir.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on the question? Nope. All those in favor of introduction signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and move item 5C to sixth order.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to suspend the rules and move item 5C to sixth order. On the question? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5D for introduction, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an agreement with Local Lodge 2305 of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, AFL-CIO.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
On the question, I'm happy to vote to ratify this contract. 400-plus days is beyond belief. They deserve a contract. They deserve the raises for the hard work that the men and women do over there every day, every time of year. We have the worst winter that I can remember. So I'm glad, they have some resolve. They have a contract. And you know what? I'm a union guy. When you settle a contract, you feel good. Everybody feels good. You feel like you're worth something. So I'm very happy to see this happen.
Yeah, on the question, I agree. It's long overdue. Very thrilled for the DPW workers. And like Joan said, we have a fire and police union contract coming up. I hope it doesn't even get close to being as long as this one has. So hopefully they learn from this. And again, I'm thrilled that we have an agreement and we can move forward.
On the question, I'm also glad that both parties came to an agreement and that the contract is finalized.
I'll echo all the sentiments of my fellow council members here. I'm glad to see that this is completed and will be voted on and finalized tonight. All those in favor of introduction signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and move item 5D to sixth order.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to suspend the rules and move item 5D to sixth order. On the question? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Michael Parker, Esquire, as a member of the Scranton Sewer Authority for a term expiring January 4th, 2031.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution authorizing the City of Scranton to accept a monetary donation from Keystone Sanitary Landfill, Inc. for a 2026 Freightliner garbage truck per CoStar's contract number as noted from Mid-Atlantic Truck and Equipment.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5G for introduction, a resolution. Resolution for plan revision for new land development located at 530, 532 Broadway Street.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, formerly 5C. Reading by title, filed to Council Number 10, 2026, an ordinance, amending the file of the Council Number 42, 2024, an ordinance as amended entitled, appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2025 to and including December 31st, 2025, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2025, so as to transfer an amount not to exceed $225,000 from non-departmental contingency account number as noted to fund Department of Public Works union raises that were not identified in the 2025 operating budget.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and move item 6A to seventh order for a final vote.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
6B, formerly 5D. Reading by title, filed to Council Number 11, 2026, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an agreement with Local Lodge 2305 of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, AFL-CIO.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction, or all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
The opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and move item 6B to seventh order for a final vote.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, Resolution Number 30, 2026, authorizing and approving the execution and submission of a fiscal year 2027 federal appropriations community project funding request application by the City of Scranton for up to $1 million for the purchase of police technology and equipment.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question,
Yeah, on the question, I met with the police chief, had a great meeting, reasons why we need, hopefully get this grant and what we're going to use it for next door in the Fidelity building for their command center. But my concern is, if we don't get these grants, how are we paying for it? What's the backup plan? So Frank, can you ask administration what their plan is? Because we all know at the end of this year, we might have a new administration, and we're going to be the ones trying to put this budget together. So I'd rather know sooner than later what the potential plans are and how would we fund it if we don't get these grants.
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
thank you, Mr. McAndrew. Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution Number 31, 2026, authorizing and approving the execution and submission of a fiscal year 2027 federal appropriations community project funding request application by the City of Scranton for up to $529,879 for the Pine Brook Brownfield Cleanup and Site Preparation Project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 32, 2026, authorizing and approving the execution and submission of a fiscal year 2027 federal appropriations community project funding request application by the City of Scranton for up to $3 million for the Pittston Avenue Infrastructure Streetscape Project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution Number 33, 2026, authorizing and approving the execution and submission of a fiscal year 2027 federal appropriations community project funding request application by the City of Scranton for up to $500,000 for the Francis Willard Schoolyard Project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, Resolution Number 34, 2026, authorizing and approving the execution and submission of a fiscal year 2027 federal appropriations community project funding request application by the City of Scranton for up to $2,343,750 for the construction of an emergency operations and training center.
What is the recommendation for the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 35, 2026, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with RHL Companies, Inc. to perform Lindy Creek stormwater improvements.
What is the recommendation for the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
7G, formerly 6A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, filed to Council Number 10, 2026, amending file to Council Number 42, 2024, an ordinance as amended entitled Appropriating Funds for the Expenses of the City of Government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2025 to and including December 31st, 2025, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2025, so as to transfer an amount not to exceed $225,000 from the non-departmental contingency account number as noted to fund Department of Public Works union raises that were not identified in the 2025 operating budget.
As vice chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7G.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I hereby declare that item 7G be legally and lawfully adopted.
7H, formerly 6B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, filed to Council Number 11, 2026, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an agreement with Local Lodge 2305 of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, AFL-CIO.
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7H.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Sean McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Mark McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7H legally and lawfully adopted.
8th order, 8A, filed to Council Number 7, 2026.
This ordinance amends provisions to the zoning ordinance for the city of Scranton related to data centers.
8B, filed to Council Number 8, 2026.
This ordinance amends provisions to the zoning ordinance for the city of Scranton related to data centers, and these ordinances have been tabled until public hearing can be held at a later date. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.